On the morning of November 18, 1985, 44-year-old Lois Lang entered the Deak Currency Exchange located at 29 Broadway in New York City. 58-year-old receptionist Frances Lauder and 80-year-old Nicholas Louis Deak, known as the James Bond of finance, were gunned down in the office on the 21st floor. After being escorted out of the office by security 2 hours earlier, Lang sat in a coffee shop across the street, waiting for confirmation that the Deak CEO was in the building. When he and his son exited a black sedan and entered the building just before 11:30 a.m., Lang followed them inside. She took the elevator up to the 21st floor, where she approached Mrs. Lauder, who was seated behind the reception desk. When Lang was told that Deak wasn't in the office, she pulled a .38 caliber revolver from her pocket and fired twice. The first shot whizzed by the 58-year-old mother's head, but the second one found its mark, and Lang headed down the hall towards the CEO's office. Hearing the gunshots, Deak met Lang in the hallway just outside his office door. He struggled to take the weapon from her, but she was able to fire 3 shots, one of which struck the 80-year-old man in the chest. According to one of the nearly 40 employees who were in the office at the time of the shooting, Lang then grabbed Deak by his feet, dragged him into his office, said, "Now you got yours," before she shut the door, sat in his desk chair, and reloaded her gun. Lang calmly made her way back to the reception desk when the first police officer arrived on the 21st floor, and after ignoring his demands, he tackled her to the ground and placed her under arrest. As Lang was escorted out of the building, no one had any answers as to why she committed the murders, but statements provided by 2 witnesses would give us a look into the future of the investigation. A 23-year-old foreign exchange teller named Eileen Yorks told investigators that Lang visited the office 2 weeks earlier looking to buy $15 worth of Mexican pesos. When Yorks told her the current exchange rate, Lang got angry and argued that it was too low, and she left without making the transaction, but not before telling Yorks that she knew Deak and Mr. Pereira. York said it was clear the 44-year-old woman wasn't all there and laughed at her comment since Mr. Pereira had been dead for several years. Steve Kirsch operated the elevator that Lang took to the 21st floor, and he told investigators that she looked like she was dreaming when she stepped out of the elevator. In less than an hour, the media reported that law enforcement uncovered the motive for the murders. They claimed that Lang believed she invested money with the firm, and they lost it all through bad investments. They also said she believed she was part owner of the Deak Pereira firm after the government had given her a share of the company in the 1940s. However, that story was provided by an unknown, unnamed law enforcement source that was never revealed, and that story was never repeated or confirmed by anyone to this day. 3 psychiatrists from the Elmhurst Medical Center who examined Lang provided a very different narrative to the court. Dr. Howard Owens, Arthur Cronin, and Stanley Brodsky claimed she was paranoid and suffered from delusions and couldn't be trusted to participate in her own defense, especially since she denied committing any crime. Psychiatrists in Washington diagnosed her as schizophrenic during an evaluation in 1982 after she was arrested for allegedly stealing credit cards. The charges were dropped, and after 14 days, she was released from hospital. Assistant District Attorney Patricia Davis suggested that Lang admitted to the shooting. She claimed that Lang admitted to having the gun and firing it, but she allegedly said it to unnamed authorities. Judge Edward McLaughlin presided over the competency hearing, and Lang told him she thought the proceedings were preposterous and that her innocence could be proven by simply calling Deak and speaking to him. Lang repeated her story to a grand jury, and at her next hearing on February 4th, 1986, Judge Brenda Soloff ordered that she was to be taken to Elmhurst Medical Center. She was transferred from there to Kirby Forensic Psychiatric Center, a maximum security facility, where she remained for nearly 8 years, until May 1993. During a meeting with 2 psychiatrists, Lang allegedly admitted to the killing once again. The doctors claimed that Lang recognized Deak and Lauder were actually dead, so they contacted the district attorney and a criminal trial was scheduled. At the trial, Assistant District Attorney Peter Casolaro pleaded with the court to impose a life sentence, claiming that prior to the murders, Lang tried to strangle her father and attempted to stab a man in Nevada. On May 27, 1993, after a 3-week non-jury trial, Supreme Court Justice Rena Ulveler convicted 52-year-old Lois Lang of both murders and sentenced her to 20 years to life, plus an additional 22 years to be served concurrently with the murder sentences. Lang's lawyers never questioned the validity of the prosecutor's allegations of past assaults, and even though Judge Ulveler admitted that Lang was still mentally ill, they never requested a mental competency hearing or challenged the psychiatrist's assertion that she admitted to committing the murders, even though Lang still denied it. When Lang was escorted out of the courtroom and locked away in the Bedford Hills Maximum Security Correctional Facility, never to be seen or heard from again, that should have been the end of the story. But an old associate of Deak's decided that the world needed to hear the real story. This is Canadian businessman Arkady Kuhlman. Kuhlman graduated from the Richard Ivey School of Business before taking a managerial position with the Royal Bank of Canada in 1977. By 1984, he was the vice president of the Corporate Cash Management and Commercial Banking Marketing Divisions and the executive vice president of Deak Pereira Canada. He was named president of Deak Pereira International in 1986 after the company was acquired by Australian real estate brokerage Martin Properties Limited, and he stayed on until 1996 before founding ING Direct. Kuhlman never believed the official story that a random homeless woman murdered his former boss, and he was ready to use his vast resources to prove it. After the shooting, he hired a team of private investigators to investigate the company's personnel files and financial records at company branches around the world to see if he could find any connection to Lang. But when none was found, he knew it was something to do with Deak's mysterious past.
Which is the oldest and largest foreign exchange company in the Western Hemisphere. Through his international network of more than 55 offices and banks, his company offers a full line of services in every aspect of foreign exchange, international banking and investments, and gold and silver marketing. He's a fascinating man, and I might add he's going to be showing us over $1 million worth of gold and silver in a special display here today. Ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome Nicholas Deak. Nicholas? Mr. Deak, I'm going to put you right in here. What does Deak Pereira do exactly? Come in, Ken. You sit, move in there.
Okay. Well, we are known best as dealers in foreign exchange,
right,
and in precious metals. Mm-hmm. We play around with some banks too. We have a few of them.
Why do you own banks?
Yes.
Here in America?
Well, we have 2 in America and we have 2 in Europe. 1 in Switzerland and 1 in Austria.
Uh-huh. Why don't banks in America deal in gold?
Well, of the 14,700 banks, I believe there may be a half a dozen. They do deal in gold, but that is all.
Well, obviously they don't believe in it the way you fellas do.
Some of them do, but let's face it, for 2 generations, the ownership of gold was prohibited. We lack the skill. Most bankers lack the skill.
Right.
They don't know how to do it. Mm-hmm. And if they don't know how to do something, they shy away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Nicholas Louis Deak arrived in the United States from Romania in 1939, looking to start his own foreign currency exchange, after earning a PhD in economics from a Swiss university in 1929 and working at his father's bank for nearly a decade. He taught economics at the College of the City of New York before volunteering for Army service in 1941. He was deployed to Egypt, Burma, Thailand, and Malaya during World War II, but not as a soldier. He worked for the O.S.S., the precursor to the CIA. He also worked for the Economic Department in the League of Nations and served as an advisor to the Bank of London. During his deployment, he worked with a stable of well-known intelligence operatives, including Wild Bill Donovan, Alan Dulles, Richard Helms, William Colby, and William Casey, all of whom became agency directors. The O.S.S. was officially dissolved on October 1st, 1945, and Deak returned to New York in 1946, bragging to his agency colleagues that he was going to establish the world's preeminent foreign currency exchange. The Deak Pereira Group was formed the same year, and business was good. But it wasn't until 1958 that a chance meeting changed the trajectory of his future. During a ski trip in the Catskill Mountains in upstate New York, he claims he was approached by a group of people who offered to sell him their bank in Fleischmann's, a small town of 400 people. One day, these people came to me and said, "Mr. Deak, you are in the financial business. How would you like to be the new owner of our bank?" I told them that whatever they were asking, I would pay them half. They were very angry, and I didn't see them until 2 months later, and they told me they'd accepted my offer. I didn't even want a bank. Tens of millions of dollars instantly flooded into Deak's new bank, and the vast majority of the deposits came from hundreds of accounts from Latin America. Profits shot up more than 2,000% within a couple of years, and by 1960 there were 26 Deak Pereira offices operating all around the world. If you've watched my documentary on Jim Jones' rise to power, the chance encounter on the ski hill might sound familiar. Jones said he was approached by a strange man in the parking lot of a used car dealership who offered to give him a church so he could start his own movement. Jones claimed he wanted nothing to do with the man or his offer, but he eventually accepted. By 1981, Deak's company was trading more than 120 currencies, totaling more than $4 billion a year. It was speculated that if you owned silver or gold bullion, there was a 20% chance that you bought it from Deak Pereira. But just 2 years later, Deak's Latin American depositors would need to find a new safe haven for their cash. Deak National Bank was under federal surveillance, and an inside informant came forward with information that went right to the office of the president. This informant alleged that Deak's firm was laundering hundreds of millions of dollars for Colombian drug cartels, and he told his story to John Walker Jr. Walker was the assistant secretary to the U.S. Treasury and the first cousin of Vice President George H.W. Bush. Deak was about to find out that his longtime relationship with CIA Director William Casey now meant nothing, and Casey had no choice but to throw him into the fire. President Reagan signed Executive Order 12435 on July 28, 1983, establishing an advisory commission on organized crime. James Harmon Jr. was named the executive director and chief counsel for the commission, and he confirmed that Casey's relationship with Deak was severed. On October 29, 1984, Harmon sent Casey a letter thanking him for his cooperation. The letter stated, "I know that the CIA is vitally concerned with money laundering activities and that you have provided us with important information which assisted the Commission to confront this problem. The Commission's report, I believe, sheds new light on strategies to make laundering schemes more difficult to conduct. I also think that techniques to detect money laundering now under study may prove of value to the intelligence community." Harmon claimed the commission had the cooperation of all 15,000 members of the American Bankers Association, but the one man they needed to testify declined. Deak claimed that his company reported the details of every transaction, and the closed-door testimony he provided to Harmon and the commission satisfied his responsibility to the commission, but Harmon disagreed. A single transaction of more than $100 million was of particular interest to the commission, and Harmon wanted Deak to answer to it during the hearing. Deak's legal team told Harmon that he couldn't testify because of business pressures, but Deak admitted that he believed he was asked to testify just to make a big show at the hearing. The commission had no subpoena power, so they couldn't compel him to testify, but Arthur Brill, the commission's director of public affairs, lobbied Congress to grant them the power. In an interview with Salon magazine, Arkady Kuhlman confirmed the informant's claim and elaborated on why Deak refused to testify, saying, "We were the CIA's paymaster. The world was changing in the 80s. You couldn't just accept bags of cash. Deak was slow at making those changes, and when you're slow at making those changes, you're out of the game." He claimed that the office manager at Deak's Macau office vanished without a trace, and he found a picture of Deak lying on his office floor after he was shot. No such photo has ever been released to the public. Once the statements that Deak made to the commission got out, it started a worldwide run on his bank, and among the clients who pulled their money were the Macau triads and Latin American drug cartels. Journalist Philip Bowring was stationed in Hong Kong during the scandal, and he confirmed that Deak had crossed a member of the Macau Mafia. Canadian economist Antel Faketi met Deak while she was teaching at Princeton in the 1970s, and she didn't hold back when speaking about his death, saying, "I often think that the producers at the CIA should pick a more credible scenario when they plot the elimination of some of their former employees who babble too much." Lois Lang came from a stable middle class family in Longview, Washington. She was a member of the National Honor Society for her academic prowess and leadership skills. She starred on her high school tennis and basketball teams. And during her first year at Lower Columbia College, she was named the Christmas Ball Queen. After her second year, she transferred to Washington State University, where she earned a Bachelor of Science degree, and then earned a master's degree in physical education from the University of Illinois in 1965. In 1964, she got her dream job at the University of California at Santa Barbara coaching tennis. And on September 4th, 1965, she married her high school sweetheart, Larry Largent. She was living the life she'd always wanted, but in less than 5 years, her dream life became a journey into madness. UC Santa Barbara limited faculty contracts to 5 years, so Lang left her position in 1969, and shortly after, her husband filed for divorce. Her friends and family rarely heard from her, and when they did, Lois had descended into complete madness. Her stepmother, Arletha, claimed that she had no idea what happened to her. In 1975, Santa Barbara police found her clothes scattered along a beach and assumed she'd taken her own life by drowning. But no body was found, and she was considered a missing person, until police found her naked and catatonic in a motel room. She was taken to Santa Clara Valley Medical Center for psychiatric treatment, and after a month-long stay, Arletha received a call from the clinic. The doctor told her that they would release Lois, but only if they agreed to let her stay with them. Arletha agreed, and Lois returned to Longview. What no one knew at the time was that the doctor who treated Lois was partially funded by the CIA as part of the MK Ultra mind control program. Dr. Frederick Milgus was the head of the psychiatry department at the clinic, and he also worked for the Stanford Research Institute and the National Institute for Mental Health, a known CIA front and admitted testing ground for MK Ultra mind control experiments. When Lois returned to the family home, she told Arletha bizarre stories about how she was friends with Queen Elizabeth, how she was a member of the World Court, and that she'd been traveling the country doing research for top secret university projects. Arletha and her husband Harold were left with no choice but to kick her out, and once again, Lois was in the wind. She toured the country on a Greyhound bus, allegedly funding her travels by working as a bingo clerk at a Harrah's casino in Nevada. Lois had several run ins with authorities, and they claimed that many times they'd find her with several $100s on her, along with a Greyhound Ameripass that granted her unlimited bus travel all around the country. At the time, no one could confirm that she was employed at Harrah's casino or that she had any other job or means of supporting herself. She asked friends to borrow money and claimed that she can pay them back by working as a roadrunner, but she never explained what that meant. After the 1985 killings, officials confirmed that when she was arrested, she had a Harrah's Casino work card in her backpack and traced her job application back to 1978. According to Nevada law, background checks are mandatory for all gaming employees and are processed through the Nevada Gaming Control Board's Gaming Employee Registration System, and that includes investigating criminal history, employment verification, and financial background. On the application, she listed Queen Elizabeth as her only reference, and if background checks were done, they'd learn that she'd been arrested dozens of times and spent time in mental institutions. But the Nevada Gaming Commission approved her application and granted her a gaming license anyway. There was obviously no background check done at all, and the idea that a casino would even consider employing a mentally ill drifter who had several arrests on her record, including multiple arrests for theft, is ludicrous. We know that the CIA has a very long and public history of working with the mafia, and we know they're heavily invested in casinos as a means to launder money. So if an agent needed a cover story for an asset, they knew where to turn, and Lois Lang was certainly an asset. When Lois began her fateful cross country trip is unknown. She traveled from Santa Barbara to Longview, then headed east to Illinois, where she visited old friends and colleagues at the university. Phys ed teacher Mariana Treckle was shocked to hear about the New York murders, adding that Lang was virtually unrecognizable when she stopped by 2 weeks earlier. She said she was always well dressed and well groomed, so she was shocked to see her looking like a bag lady. Retired professor and friend Thomas Curitan echoed Treckle, saying she looked like she'd been pulled through a keyhole. He said he gave her $20 to get something to eat because she looked like she needed it, and he also noticed that she seemed lost and that she didn't know where she was going or what she was going to do. But where she was going was Orlando, Florida. Where Lois stayed in Florida may never be known. She told authorities in New York that she was staying in a motel, but the desk clerk confirmed that there were no records of her ever staying there. The owner of the Easy Money pawn shop confirmed that Lang spent 30 minutes in the store before showing interest in the .38 caliber handgun. She provided a Florida government ID card, filled out the paperwork, and left with it. A spokesman with the Florida Department of Motor Vehicles confirmed that she was issued an ID card in 1976, but it expired in 1981. Where Lois got $115 to buy the gun, the equivalent of $345 today, is a question that was never publicly addressed, but Arkady Kuhlman was certain that he knew the answer. He claimed that one of his investigators in Macau was told that Argentinian gangsters were involved in Deak's murder, and his team was able to confirm that they met with Lang in Miami before she traveled to New York. Lang's road trip to New York and arrival at the Deak Pereira office at 29 Broadway wasn't her first. New York Police Captain William Quigley claimed that employees told him that Lang had visited the firm earlier in the year, asking to see the chairman or someone in charge. Notice how she didn't mention Deak by name. During her arrest, Lang claimed she'd done nothing wrong, but once investigators got her behind closed doors, her story allegedly changed, and the narrative about being gifted the firm by government in the 1940s was presented to the public. Keep in mind that she was born in 1941, and she never mentioned Deak's name to anyone prior to the alleged confession and never repeated that story. If you've watched my documentary on the 1954 Jimmy Shaver case, that story should sound pretty familiar. Infamous CIA psychiatrist Jolly West claimed that Shaver admitted to murder during a truth serum interview and claimed that he heard the voice of God. That was the only time he allegedly mentioned hearing voices or remembered any specific details of the crime. Lois's friends and family were all in agreement that her mental health deteriorated during her time at UC Santa Barbara. Her longtime neighbor, Norma Sheldon, claimed that she snapped after spending time there. Shortly before her trip to New York, she told an officer at the University of Washington that she was going to rule the world. Lois claimed that shortly after her divorce, she started suffering from amnesia, and she was approached by one of her ex husband's business partners who moved her into an apartment in Mountain View, California. It's no surprise that he's never been identified, as he was clearly working with or for the CIA. Lang also told New York investigators that she lived on grants and took flying lessons, and identified friends took her to firing ranges. None of those so called friends have ever been identified either. But one of the men responsible for her transformation was identified, Dr. Frederick Town Melgus. One of Melgus' main areas of research was drug-aided hypnosis, and Lang was transformed into a perfect soldier ready to ensure that Nicholas Deak would keep his secrets forever. The idea that a 44-year-old homeless woman traveled across the country all on her own to murder a man that she never met and most likely never even heard of is a tale straight out of the most bizarre tabloid, yet it remains the official story of the murder of Nicholas Deak. If you're enjoying these documentaries, make sure you click the like and subscribe button so I know you're out there. And if there's a specific case you'd like to see featured on the channel, please leave a comment and let me know. Take care of one another. I'll be back soon.